Hello and welcome to Channels Book Club. I'm Olakunle Kasumo. Thanks for joining us once again. A few episodes ago, we featured a university professor who shared with us his thoughts and ideas expressed in a book written in honor of another ex-university vice chancellor. Now, this week we have with us a professor, another professor, joining us to review an important book he has written, a memoir, to be more specific, an autobiography. But, you know, one of the things that struck me while looking at this book and a few other books like this is, the power of documentation. It's very important to document. If you are thinking of one day writing your own memoir, autobiography, it will pay off if you begin to document now. Some people are really good at documenting. They file away letters, file away documents, and they write journals almost on a daily basis. And so when it is time to remember some of the things that happened, it's very easy for them to remember those things and to write them down. It's very important. So if you have not developed that habit of documenting and journaling, you might begin to consider it, particularly if you think or you regularly consider writing your own memoir or autobiography in the future. Now, let's get acquainted with our guest for today, Professor Bolagade Ayola. Let's get to meet him and then we dig into the interview with him. Enjoy this. Prof, nice to have you on Channels Book Club.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you here. It's been a while. We've been talking about you coming.
Yes, yes.
Good to see you.
I really appreciate the opportunity.
Good to see you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
My days in court. The first time I saw your book, I thought you were a lawyer.
No, I am not.
The very first time I just saw the cover, I didn't read anything. I thought you were a lawyer. I said, this must be a memoir or an autobiography written by a lawyer.
No, not at all. I'm a single-minded agricultural economist.
Yeah, it was when I dug in. I mean, when I saw the rider and then, read the back.
Okay.
Then I got a better idea of, what your book, what you do and what your book is about.
This book is actually an outlier in the maze of my publications. I don't belong in literature or anything, but I just veered off
to write
for
this.
the sake of humanity.
But this is a good. I mean, there's a lot to talk about in your book, but let's set the stage for it. This book is a memoir, and it focuses on your experience at the University of Agriculture in Makurdi. Is that a good summary?
Yes. With some riders to it, with a view to providing intergenerational lessons to learn for all categories of professionals, including the students, the administrators in the university, the civil servants, and so many others. The lawyers themselves, because there are serious issues of law in that book also, even though I'm not a lawyer. So we have generated a lot of information for the public to learn from.
Again, for somebody who is watching us and is wondering, your experience at that university was, there was there were the years of the positive years,
Definitely.
if I may say.
Yes.
I mean, but you zeroed in a lot on the difficulties you had during that time. You had a lot of challenges, you had a lot of trials, you had a lot of persecutions, and then you documented all those experiences and put them in this book.
Yes.
Is that correct?
It's correct. And that is because it is this strange experience that will be new to the people. Ordinarily, you stay aback and view the university setting as a pure setting, as an infallible setting, as a setting of intellectuals,
intellectual
where
environment.
things can never go wrong, where the ills of society will never occur, let alone maximizing themselves within the academic community. So when these things happen contrary to those notions, I was responsibility bound as a teacher and as a human being too, to put the words on paper and make it available for people to learn from.
And that is what struck me about your book. I was like shocked.
Really.
Because what you said now is exactly my thinking. That a university system is supposed to be a pure environment, an intellectual environment where there is order and there is fairness and there is justice.
Yes.
And all those things that we aspire for in our society. And to read here about nepotism,
yes,
about scheming,
about tribalism, about persecution,
backstabbing,
about victimization,
almost all the
so many things,
negative adjectives,
oddities in the university system.
So, Prof, you need to tell me and tell the viewers. Let's talk about what you put here. What was that experience you had that made up this book?
Yes, I had the experience of victimization in the hand of a vice-chancellor that came from outside the university to assume office, but was the product of an ethnic agitation. And it took some more than 1 year before that succeeded and get him in the university. Someone that contested for the post of vice-chancellor and came 6th. Another one that came 22nd, and so on and so forth. And the system is bad enough to put its weight behind those ones in preference against the person that won the race originally.
To be specific,
yes,
you were a Yoruba man.
Correct.
In a Makurdi-based university. Yeah. And the indigents were not happy with the fact that the former VC of the university, before the new one came in.
Yes, I wanted to give that setting for you.
Yes.
I was not a vice-chancellor, and I didn't become one before I left the system. But the pioneer vice-chancellor, late Professor F.S. Idachaba, was my own mentor, who incidentally wrote the policy paper for the Babangida regime to establish 2 universities of agriculture. I was proofreading him that time. So when that was approved, he simply said, oh boy, let us go to Makurdi and continue our business together. I was his research associate, a career staff under him. So, and it coincided with the time I just finished my PhD. Therefore, the choice was between Ibadan for me, where I did my PhD, and Makurdi, and I chose Makurdi to follow him. In support of non-ethnicization of the university system, if I wanted to follow the path of ethnicity, I would have preferred Ibadan instead. Yes. I had all the opportunity. So we went there. Unfortunately, the elites in Benue State, specifically the Tiv elite, preferred what they call the son of the soil to be the head of the university. And it was not so. So they mounted a serious agitation against his regime. He fought through tooth and nail to finish that regime and succeeded to a very large extent. My own undoing was the naive decision I took to stay back.
After he left?
After he left. 8 years.
And you were seen as his
right-hand
man.
I did not have any any idea that that would happen, but it happened. So they pounced on me to visit the scenes of the former Vice Chancellor on me. And the theater for achieving that was the succession race into the post. The Governing Council had completed the process before he left, as the ASU guidelines provided. 6 months before a Vice Chancellor would leave, the process had started. And within months, it had finished before the man left. And somebody else had been chosen. One Professor Ike Naoyido, who was his deputy for 8 years. Council thought it had taken the best decision. But the thief population said no over their dead body. There will be bloodshed, there will be rancor, and so on and so forth. Eventually, the Abacha regime caved in and got him appointed from the back door.
We're going to come back to your story, Prof.
Yeah.
But this is a very serious... Is this common in Nigerian universities? I mean, those of us... Of course, I went to...
Even at Ibadan, it's happening now.
It's a common thing in Nigerian universities.
It's frequent.
Where positions are dictated by the tribe or the ethnic group you come from, and so on. Is that very common in Nigerian universities?
It used not to be the case, but it's very rampant now.
Nowadays.
That peace does not accompany succession race in Nigerian universities. And that's a serious oddity, an abnormality, which, if this country is given the opportunity to reverse it, the government should do everything to do so. Because it is eroding the academic culture. It's making the university less than universality, which it is. Worldwide organization, where a group of people, intellects, are kept. If they like, let them walk on their head down, as long as they propounded theories and so on and so forth, and improve upon society. But that's not what is happening now.
Prof, your story at times read like fiction. Honestly, read like fiction.
Really, yeah, life experience.
The intrigues, the schemings, the backstabbing and everything. I was like, how in the world was this happening in the university environment?
Yes. The Vice Chancellor we are talking about was quite dexterous in the use of several instrumentalities to attack me. Therefore, the story cannot be less intriguing, because for each instrument he used, there are very many complications around it, which I was running away from by incessantly going to court. I thought that that's where safety could be found. And indeed, that's where God used to relieve me of those burdens. Eventually, I triumphed by going to court incessantly, from magistrate court to high court in the state, high court in federal, to appeal court, and to Supreme Court.
Incredible.
Yes. Over a period of 5 years
The back of your book says that because of your Owu lineage, you are a warrior. You got the warrior's blood in you.
I fought tooth and nail.
So you fought all the way.
I fought it out. I slugged it out.
Now, under normal circumstances, should the courts be the place where such issues in universities are resolved? I would have thought
it shouldn't.
It
shouldn't, and it shouldn't have been.
Looking at the structure of,
if not
a regular university.
The Vice Chancellor boasted openly and officially at meetings, at Senate, that he will prove that he was a son of that soil.
And you were an alien.
And I was not. I was not. I belong to what they call Uke, which is the thief terminology for outsiders. Therefore, I had to take the whole administration together. And indeed, all my complaints to Governing Council fell in deaf ears. To Senate, to authorities, even to ASU. You can see. Therefore, he was on his own with all the sense of impunity he had. Therefore, I left university administration alone and went to the courts.
Your book also shows that you are also a spiritually conscious person. What I mean by that is I could read some attempts at spiritual interpretations of certain experiences you had.
Correct.
I mean, and you had all kinds of experience. Like you just said now, you had the sickness experience, you had gunmen, you had...
7 gunmen came for me. And my wife, they simply didn't find us at home. It was miraculous. Who else could have done that if not God? They saw me a day before. They saw my wife that afternoon. So they were sure we were in town and we would not sleep elsewhere other than our house. But do you know that miraculously, both of us traveled differently? I had a colleague who came from UK on a research, and we set on the road. The following day, my wife, who had decided I would not attend the burial of her friend's mother, simply decided and took her car to a park in town from a meeting and entered vehicle to face Ile-Ife. She couldn't arrive in Ile-Ife. That is, she slept at Akure. So miraculously, that night they struck with 7 gunmen, met my children at home, harassed them, shoved them around, and so on. So who could have done that if not God? And that is why you will see in the book, we fought and won this fight on our knees, 5 of us. Professor Onyido, myself, Professor Shola Agbede, Architect Daudu. These were people who were close enough to Idachaba in his days, and which they swore to get out of the system so as not to perpetrate the spirit of Idachaba anymore, so that they could fill the post of the bossa, the post of physical planning director, the post of vice chancellor, the post of this, that unless they removed us, scraped us off, new people of their preference would not be able to occupy those posts. That was...
Prof, we don't have so much time, but I need to ask you a final question here. Is, when you look at the Nigerian university system now, I mean, with this backdrop, your experiences and subsequent observations, you know, what is your take?
I think that the government and all other stakeholders in the university should sharply put a searchlight on the inner mechanisms of the university system. Many things, many ills of the society happen inside university without attention paid to them. Nepotism, tribalism, corruption, fraud, or graft of anything, they are happening as if they are not happening. So unless we shed light on the inner mechanisms of the university, even the Senate, the council, and the teaching and supervision of students, the process leading to that, all of them are fraught with such behaviors. And in particular, students are always the victims.
Wow. So crisis mode in our universities, basically.
Yeah.
And your book did a good job in shedding light, you know,
I did my best
on Nigerian universities.
In fairness to
this is something that anybody in the educational sector, I mean, concerned, involved in the university system, you know, should look closely at.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof, for
my
joining
pleasure.
us.
My pleasure.
Thank you for having this
my
conversation.
My regard to you. Thank you for the opportunity too.
Up next is a reading. Let's meet the author. and enjoy the reading.
My name is Dilys Silla. I'm a life coach and author of the book, Not This Widow. This book was inspired by the sudden loss of my husband, and also me being so amazed at how people reacted to those that are grieving and how people responded to widows and widowhood. I'm about to read an excerpt from the book, Chapter 9, Over the Rainbow, of Not This Widow. I'd been waiting for that call since I lost Eddie. He had passed away suddenly, so the coroner had to be involved. I was upset because the day Eddie died, they'd said I could see him any time I wanted to. However, I hadn't seen him for nearly a month, 2 days before his funeral. It was the longest time we had been apart since we married. I had been longing to see him for so long I could hardly sleep. When that call came through, meaning that I would get to see Eddie and talk to him and just be with him, I felt a little comfort in my heart. My two friends who had been visiting almost daily accompanied me. They walked through the doors of the funeral home, but instead of taking a left and sitting in the welcoming waiting area with a hot cup of tea, I was asked to follow the lovely lady in charge to a tiny chapel outside the main building. I went in with one of my friends because she thought I might need the support, but would leave if I needed time alone. Eddie was in a small room, the third on the right if my memory serves me correctly. I opened the door slowly, took a deep breath and walked inside with my friend in tow. She gently closed the door behind me. I looked down into this beautiful shiny coffin my husband lay in the clothes I had so carefully chosen for him. The lady commented on how stylish my husband must have been, being most impressed with his psychedelic socks when I had taken his clothes to her a few days before. I had proudly proceeded to tell her what an impeccable man my husband was, how he always smelt divine. Now here he was, lifeless. I looked into the coffin and nearly collapsed on seeing him. If it weren't for a pair of very quick outstretched hands that broke my fall, I would have been in a heap on the floor. I couldn't breathe properly. My chest hurt, and I felt cheated. The man lying there wasn't my husband. It just wasn't him. He looked like him somewhat, but that wasn't my husband. My husband had gone. He had gone before I could really say goodbye. That's not him. That's not Eddie. I'm not coming back here again. I don't want to see him. That's not Eddie, I managed to say between my sobs. I was in such a highly distressed state that I was ushered out of the room and straight to the waiting car. I sat in the front seat and stared out of the window for the entire 30-minute journey back home, not saying a single word. Something happened to me when I walked into that room, something I hadn't expected. Whatever it was though, that something helped me immensely in preparation for my husband's funeral. The day I lost Eddie, I sat with him in the hospital for hours. I held his hand, I kissed his face, I rubbed his head, I ran my hands over his chest, I laid my head on his chest. I took in everything that I possibly could so I wouldn't forget what he felt like. I consciously savoured and stored those feelings in my soul so I would remember. And when I needed to, I could go back to that place. I took in the smile he had on his face, so peaceful and so gentle and so handsome. I took it all in. This was not the man I had just seen, and therefore I was able, after processing that painful encounter, to accept that my husband was no more. It didn't take much to tell me that I was so fortunate to have seen him before the funeral. Why? Because if the man I saw was a smiling, warm, and peaceful man I had sat beside for hours and hours asking why he had left me so suddenly at the hospital on the day he passed away, I wouldn't have been able to bury him. I know without a shadow of a doubt, I wouldn't have been able to go through with it. Somehow, I felt a disconnect, and the reality of Eddie being gone and me being on my own was stark. It hit me between the eyes in a way that denial was not possible. We were very close. He was so alive. He was so present. The contrast of what was and what is was just too great for me to remain in a state of shock or indeed denial. I had two children that had lost their father, and I couldn't allow them to feel for a minute that the roles had been reversed and that they were responsible for me. So this strength everyone spoke about had to be used to support my children. At the very least, I had to make sure that on the day I didn't crumble. I had to reach so far within myself to be a pillar for them to lean on. I was now so eager for the day to come so I could get it over with. For the next 2 days, I held my breath and focused on that fact that if we got through it, then I could exhale.
Like we did last week and the week before, we gave you an update on the Channels Book Club Prize for Literature for 2020. We had to suspend it because of COVID-19, but we are determined to finish up that competition and announce the 3 winners. But prior to then, we'll need to announce the 10 finalists, bring them together, have a final round, and then the judges will pick the best 3. We're looking forward to that. So if you took part in that competition, stay very close to this show. Very soon, we'll be announcing the 10 finalists, we'll be inviting them for the final round, and then we'll be picking the top 3. You might want to look out for that. This is where we have to end the show today. As always, we'll be delighted to get your feedback through any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. I'm Olakunle Kasumo. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.